Meet Vangeline, the grandmaster of ancient TikTok dance moves, who just so happens to be a 700-year-old vampire. She's seen more trends come and go than you can imagine. Hashtag dance goals. Look, here's the twist. Vangeline's vampire lifestyle has a downside. She's outlived all her friends and loved ones, and that's pretty lonely. So she decides to mix things up a bit, adopts the name Heim, and starts a second career as a teacher in a rural village. Who knew vampires had such a knack for education? One day, Tu and his friends decide to spice up their lives with a surprise attack on Heim. It's like playing hide and seek, but with stakes, pun intended. But Heim's not your average teacher. She whips out a magical force field to fend off the attackers faster than you can say vampire slayer. Tu and his friends quickly realize that their epic quest for revenge is going to be harder than learning calculus while juggling flaming swords. Heim isn't taking this attack lightly, though. She's the queen of tough love. She decides that only those who can defeat her in a fight are allowed to leave the village. So Tu and his gang put on their big boy pants and armor and get ready for round 2. Let the epic battle of the century begin. Meanwhile, Tachibana, another teacher in the village, takes a step back and thinks, is Heim being a bit too harsh on these kids? Maybe a timeout instead of a magical force field. Well, it's something to consider, Tachibana. Oh, and Tube's got some extra baggage. He visits the graves of his family who all met their untimely end in a car accident 2 years ago. Ouch! The accident also gave him a bad case of amnesia. So not only is he trying to defeat a vampire, but he's also stuck with the worst game of Who's in My Family Tree ever. On the bright side, Heim pulled him out of that car wreck and she's now his adoptive mom. Talk about a strange family dynamic. Fast forward to the next day and Tu gets a surprise from beyond the grave, literally. His grandfather Negi sends him a ghostly message saying he'll be chilling at the top of the pillar of heaven. Because why not? Tu's life has turned into a paranormal soap opera. Tu's buddies, realizing they're pretty terrible at the whole vampire slaying thing, seek help from Tachibana. She hands out magical devices like candy on Halloween, but poor Tu discovers he's got less magical talent than a rubber chicken. So, what does he get? A fancy bracelet for Heim. Maybe it's the thought that counts, but he's not exactly impressing anyone with his magic skills. The following afternoon, Heim gets another attack, and this time she's strangely supportive of it. It's like she's the captain of the Encourage Your Attackers team. But just when you think things can't get weirder, Tachibana shows up, and guess what? She's not a teacher. She's a bounty hunter. Apparently, there's a 600 million yen bounty on Heim's head. Who knew vampire hunting was so profitable? Tachibana goes full-on bounty hunter mode and tries to take Heim down. But Tu, always the fashionably late hero, shows up just in time to save the day. Unfortunately, his arm gets chopped off. Yep, you read that right. But Heim, in a fit of mama bear rage, breaks free of her restraints. She's all like, nobody messes with my awkward vampire-slaying son. Tu gets major brownie points for his attack, and Heim gives him the golden ticket to leave the village. Who would have thought fighting vampires could be so heartwarming? In a shocking turn of events that even a soap opera writer on a caffeine high would find unbelievable, Tachibana goes all Edward Scissorhands on poor Heim, slicing and dicing her like she's a discount vegetable at a supermarket. And then, like a twisted culinary artist, he decides to have a taste of Tu as well. But wait, there's more. Tachibana strolls over to the rest of the students, presumably to check if they want their limbs served a la carte or as part of a combo meal. In the midst of all this chaos, Heim casually drops a bombshell on Tu. She turned him into a vampire when she rescued him from a car wreck. Choices. Tu can either continue being the human equivalent of a paper mache pinata at a vampire party, or he can embrace the dark side and become a bloodsucker to save his buddies. Tu opts for the latter and takes a sip of Heim's special blend, now enjoying all the perks of being a vampire, like free dental care. He goes full Count Chocula on Tachibana, and in a move that defies both science and logic, his arms regrow like they're action figures with rapid regeneration features. Armed with his new punch-people-in-the-face superpower, he sends Tachibana flying like a paper airplane into a truck. After this epic showdown, Tu's energy bar is depleted and he takes a well-deserved nap. When he wakes up, he's relieved to see that Heim is fine, though with her track record, he should probably invest in some good life insurance. Fast forward to a few days later, and our boy Tu is still more laid back about immortality than a sloth on a hammock. He's off to New Tokyo with Heim, leaving behind his friends who have promised to meet him again, presumably in some bizarre twist involving time travel or interdimensional portals. But wait, there's more existential drama on the horizon. Tu may have to come to grips with the fact that he's now eternally trapped in his 14-year-old body, which is a real vampire party pooper. He decides to head for a relaxing bath at a nearby river to ponder the intricacies of his newfound, eternally youthful state. But what's this? Instead of a serene bath, Tu ends up in a rather unexpected situation. Someone decides to jump him, and after a bit of dramatic tension, it turns out they're not who Tu thought they were. Enter Kuro, who hails from the Great Pillar of Heaven, and is on a quest to take down a vampire called the Dark Evangel. They say it's all fun and games until someone brings up vampire hunting, right? Things escalate quickly in this soap opera on steroids. Hive, never one for subtlety, sticks her hand through Kuro's chest, only to find out that he's an immortal too. Two, being the practical guy he is, decides to see if Kuro has anything on him while he's down and out. Kuro wakes up to this rather personal violation, which isn't the best way to make new friends. Kuro, facing banishment from his vampire hunter club, decides he has no choice but to hunt Haim down. Haim's not exactly eager to engage in a showdown, but she's game if Kuro can beat Two in a throwdown. Two agrees, but with one condition. The winner gets to ask the loser anything. A high-stakes vampire duel is on the horizon, complete with swords and probably an abundance of melodrama. The battle is brief but intense, with Kuro showing off some fancy swordsmanship and Two going full berserker mode. Two loses his head, quite literally, but in a move that would make a magician jealous, he reattaches it and sends Kuro plummeting like a rock in a water balloon fight. Kuro wants to go out in style, asking for the ultimate release, but Two throws a curveball and asks if they can be BFs instead. It's heartwarming, really. Post-duel, they decide to hit the local hot springs, where Two's curiosity leads to some awkward moments. He's curious whether Kuro is truly a boy, and in response, Kuro tosses a stool at his head, because nothing says friendship like a bit of head bonking. Two then has a brilliant idea: let's climb a rock to check out Haim while she's taking a bath. Not because he's a perv, but because he's into extreme rock climbing, apparently. He scales that rock like Spider-Man on caffeine, only to find a little girl at the top. But plot twist, she pops a magic pill and turns into Haim herself. The real Haim confesses that the little girl form is her true appearance, and she uses magic to look like a teenager. Two's not impressed though. She's what they call a washboard loli in the vampire world. In retaliation, Haim goes all Elsa from Frozen on Two, and Kuro is not thrilled. Two gets tossed off a cliff, but Kuro performs a superhero rescue and throws him right back up. Two, being the eternal teenager, decides to steal Haim's towel as a prize. Haim's like, hey, want to see more. But Two's just not that into older women, apparently. What does this guy want anyway? Things get even more bizarre when Haim tries to drown Two in the water because, friendship. Hero, the third wheel in this odd trio, must be having a blast watching their antics. Two invites him to join their little circus, and they decide to recruit more immortals to form a squad. As they're mulling over their grand plans, a parade of limousines rolls up. A red carpet appears, and it's about to get real when something this extravagant happens in a supernatural drama. The vampire party has just begun. She reveals that she has already established a team of immortals, the Yuki Holders. The Yuki Holders sail back to the base, and Two is thrilled. They eventually arrive at their destination. Two Yuki Holders, Jangaru and Aku, introduce themselves. Two and Kuro must clear a small entrance test. Kuro must face Jangaru while Two battles Karen. They must, within 7 days, land at least one hit. Two attacks Karen without warning, but he is soundly beaten. Kuro, too, is widely outmatched by Jangaru. Later, Two mutters that he'll resort to attacking Karen in the bath if he has to. When Shinobu, a maid, trips while carrying some garbage, Two and Kuro help her. They learn that she is a regular human who ended up working at the Yuki Holders Inn. Two and Kuro end up volunteering to help her with her work. While searching for the storage room, Two hears a voice calling out his name. He and Kuro follow it into a strange underground secret base. Here they meet Jinbei, a drunkard, and the second-rank Yuki Holder, behind only Haim in terms of strength. He tells Two of a magic sword named Robo, which is currently embedded in a slab of stone. If he can pull it, it is his. Two approaches the sword, but it won't budge an inch. The voice tells him to turn the dial, which magically allows him to pick it up. The voice is revealed to be Robo itself, who has grown bored of being stuck in the back end of nowhere. Jinbei demonstrates that Robo is a sword whose weight can be changed at will. He changes it to 1,000 times its normal weight and throws it at Two, but it ends up severing his arm. Jinbei agrees to train Two and Kuro, perhaps in time for them to at least land a hit on Jangaru and Karen. 7 days of grueling training pass. Two and Kuro emerge from Jinbei's underground base ready to complete their trial. Kuro challenges Jangaru first, who can tell that her strikes have become stronger and swifter. When Jangaru cuts off one of her arms, she uses it as an extension of herself and stabs him in the back. Jangaru loses one of his video game lives, but he commends Kuro for a job well done. He passes. Meanwhile, Two attacks Karen head-on without any tricks or surprises, but he gets nowhere at first. Two eventually manages to get the upper hand against Karen, and he succeeds in tripping her. However, before he can inflict a single blow, he hears Shinobu's cries for help and abandons his duel. He rushes to her side and finds her surrounded by monsters. With Karen's help, they successfully rescue Shinobu. After they carry her to safety, Two increases his sword's weight to 50,000, defeating all monsters in one go. Karen considers the damage done to her outfit a hit, and she passes Two. He tries hoving her out of gratitude, but she smacks him with her hammer. Imei reveals that the monsters somehow escaped from their underground holding cells after a hole inexplicably appeared. Haim assigns Tu and Kuro their first assignment to accompany Karen in rescuing some children at a nearby slum area. To Tu's dismay, they make the journey on foot. Karen explains that the various slum areas that have popped up are an eyesore to certain individuals, and it is their job as UQ holders to defend the unprotected. Tu leaps and lands at their destination, proclaiming that he is here to help. Kasuga, the nun caretaker, points out that he landed on UQ holder personnel. Karen calls him an idiot. Tu loses several bouts of arm wrestling challenges which result in him being in charge of food. However, they are delightfully surprised to learn that Tu is a skilled chef. Tu heads out to the local junkyard to practice his flash step technique, but his sloppiness attracts the attention of Kaido, a wandering martial artist. He demonstrates his own flash step technique, which is faster, smoother, and can be used in the air itself. When he sees that Tu appears to have a natural talent for the flash step, Kaido offers to train him personally. He instructs Tu to live using nothing but his feet. As Tu continues his peculiar foot-based training over the next few days, an orphan named Ruki starts copying his moves. But things take a twist when Kaido shows up with two additional intriguing characters, Cheyenne, a blind swordsman, and Chao, a wizard. The Yuki holders are clearly building a team that could rival the Avengers. Kaido then unleashes his inner beast, transforming into a fierce white werewolf, and they set out to hunt some immortals in the slums. Meanwhile, Tu and Ruki are on a snack run mission to feed the UQ holder guards. But oh, the plot thickens. Right after they leave, those poor guards are brutally mowed down by creepy puppet monsters armed with guns. It's like a horror movie meets Sesame Street. Karen, not to be left out of the chaos, is having a chat with a nun outside while taking a shower, as you do. But their conversation takes a strange turn when the nun suddenly goes silent. And in yet another twist, Chao emerges from the floor attacking Karen. But this time, Karen puts up a fight and manages to fend him off. Chao explains that he's part of a private mercenary group called Powerful Hand, and their niche is hunting immortals. He's not the kind of guy you want at your birthday party. While Tu and Ruki are trying to make sense of the chaos unfolding in the slums, they soon find themselves surrounded by Kaido and Cheyenne. Tu instructs Ruki to flee while he faces the impending doom. Kaido takes up the challenge and immediately incapacitates Tu, sealing his immortality powers. Now it's up to Kuro to fight the battle alone. She uses a fireworks technique that sets the sky ablaze, kicking off a desperate 2-on-1 showdown. Kuro takes a severe beating and is basically torn to shreds, which is just another day in the life of a vampire in this world. The situation is grim. 3 UQ holders are on the brink of becoming immortal toast. Kuro lands right next to Tu, who's still trapped within the cross seal. Unbeknownst to them, Kaido hurls 2 street signs like a twisted lawn dart competition, impaling Tu in place. But then, a surprise hero steps up. Ruki, the brave orphan, stands in the way. Kaido reveals to Ruki that their clients residing in the Pillar of Heaven want this slum obliterated from existence. Just another day at the office for these hired goons. Kuro finally manages to break free and rushes to rescue Ruki, but it turns out they're not the only ones who found their second wind. In a moment of unexpected heroism, Tu, still burning from the cross seal, stands tall and defiant against Kaido. Meanwhile, Chao decides it's the perfect time to drop some bombs of his own. He reveals that he knows Karen's true identity. She's the Steel Sink, an immortal witch who managed to survive a lynch mob. Her unique power allows her to rewrite events so that she always survives attacks, but it doesn't spare her from the associated pain. However, in a surprising twist, Karen kicks Chao where it really hurts, and it's felt by males worldwide. Her immortality is revealed to be a blessing rather than a curse. With a flurry of mighty blows, she sends Chu flying into the bathroom wall and knocks him out. Girl power indeed. Meanwhile, To, armed with some mysterious black gauntlets, holds his own against Kaido and Cheyenne. Cheyenne, seeing To's immortality secret, begins to put 2 and 2 together. To holds them off with everything he's got, and just in the nick of time, Kaido regenerates, allowing Karen to enter the fray. To, having deduced Kaido's true identity, forces him to transform into a more human-like state. To is not too thrilled with Kaido beating up kids, and Kaido's explanation is pretty much what you'd expect from a guy who lives for battle. No other job lets him fight monsters like Tu. The two engage in an epic exchange of punches that would make Rocky Balboa proud. But when it's clear they're evenly matched, Kaido unveils the ultimate form of his flash step, which is faster than the speed of sound. He thrusts his arm right through Tu's chest. However, something unexpected happens. A dark energy starts oozing from Tu, making Kaido flinch back. Cheyenne, with the wisdom of someone who's watched a lot of supernatural TV shows, recognizes the energy as magia Iriba, a source of immortality so potent that it comes at the cost of one's soul. Cheyenne's seen only 2 users of this power before, and one of them is none other than Haim herself. Now, Tu is incredibly powerful and he pummels Kaido with ease. But through sheer willpower, he manages to control and repress the magia Iriba, returning to his former self to finish off Kaido. Cheyenne sees the writing on the wall and signals a retreat because, well, they've done what they were paid to do. Just when things are looking pretty bleak, Hime swoops in with her ice magic to douse the raging flames throughout the city. She lands on the rooftop where the others are and reveals that it was Kuro's fireworks that tipped her off the chaos. Cheyenne, always the mysterious type, does some fancy sword work to cut open a hole in the fabric of reality and leaves the scene without much explanation. Apparently, explaining stuff isn't his thing. With the crisis averted, the Yugi holders jump into action to assist with relief efforts. Toa takes the opportunity to ask Hime about his magia Iriba, and she casually explains that it's not unusual for someone from her bloodline to inherit these powers. Meanwhile, a white-haired man is lurking in the shadows, observing Toa and declaring that he's the one. Kuro, in an attempt to bond with Tu, carries Robo to him and discusses the magia Ariba and the possibility that Haim might have been fibbing about it. But when Robo teases Kuro about his feelings for Tu, she's not having any of it and leaves him in the dust. She dashes toward the front gate and spots Tu having a friendly chat with Shinobu. Ah, young love, vampire style. Kuro, after a struggle with her growing feelings for To, finds herself in an awkward situation when Karen barges into the room and discovers Kuro's lack of certain physical attributes. Karen's response? Threatened to kick Kuro out of the men's dorm. Faced with exposure, Kuro decides to come clean about his unique condition and asks Karen to keep it a secret. Kuro reveals a remarkable secret. He's from a rare demi-human race that remains genderless until their 16th birthday, at which point they must choose to become either a man or a woman. This revelation leads to Karen attempting to convince Kuro to become a girl, mostly as a strategy to keep Toa away from Haim. But that's not all. Another Yuki holder named Iku overhears the whole thing and thinks she might have a plan up her sleeve. A clever plan is hatched. Kuro, now in a disguise as Kurio, dyes her hair blonde and embarks on a test date with Toa, posing as Kuro's cousin. Kurio asks Toa to show her around the capital, and Toa agrees. The adventure begins as Toa borrows Shinobu's scrap bike, and Kurio's heart starts racing faster than a speeding bullet. Kurio suggests a visit to the Pillar of Heaven, not knowing that Chao, who miraculously survived Karen's attack, is hot on their heels. As they enter the Pillar of Heaven, though it's not quite the VIP tour they were hoping for, Toa reveals how important Kuro is to him and how they're best friends. Kurio nearly spills the beans about her true identity, but suddenly, Chao attacks. He traps Toa in one of his dark voids, while Azura, a six-armed sword-wielding mercenary, takes on Kurio and makes mincemeat out of her. Azura, realizing the police are on their way, makes a hasty exit, leaving Toa and Kurio in a dire situation. Toa regains consciousness and reunites with Kuro, expressing his admiration for Kurio and a desire to marry someone like her. Meanwhile, Iku approaches Kiri, a Yuki holder who seems to be preparing a small candle for some mysterious occasion. Kiri, in her enigmatic way, hints that something big is about to happen. Toa and Kuro return from their tour of the capital, with Karen eager to hear all the juicy details of the date. But before they can dive into the gossip, Kiri asks Toa for a private chat. Kiri takes Toa to a secluded alley, where she demands to be treated like an adult and even orders him to sit and bark. But when Toa resists, they become vulnerable to an attack from Chao, who swiftly ends Kiri's life by slitting her throat. In her final moments, Kiri manages to grip Toa's hand and something unusual happens. In a sudden twist, Toa and Kiri find themselves back to earlier in the morning before Toa left for the capital with Kairo. Kiri reveals the nature of her power. She can create save points with the sand mounds she makes, and as long as the candle on top of it burns, she can reset time to that point. When she dies, she, along with anyone she's touching, returns to the save point. The day unfolds as if nothing happened, and when they return to the Yuki holder's base, Kiri brings Kairo back to the alley. This time, Chao attacks once more, but Toa is ready and sends him flying with a powerful sword strike. Kiri is finally able to share the truth. She spotted Fate, a powerful magician, who plans to kidnap Toa. Kiri recalls a playthrough where she had a conversation with Kuro, during which Fate attacked Toa. AQ, Karen, and even Kuro couldn't match his power. When Fate used his petrification abilities on Kiri, she had to take her own life to trigger her unique ability. With the weight of this new information sinking in, Toa takes a moment to process everything. Kiri's explanation isn't just a wild tale, it was also overheard by Kirin and AQ. Kiri reveals that she's devised a plan approved by Haim to capture Fate. The plan is straightforward. Fate is set to arrive at the Pillar of Heaven a little after 6 o'clock p.m. Toa will engage him in conversation, and to throw him off, Kiri provides Toa the phone for communication. Kirin and Iku are prepared to give it their all. Meanwhile, Kuro takes on a new disguise, dyes her hair blonde, and becomes Kurio once more. Kurio asks Toa for a tour of the capital, and he agrees. They set off, and Toa borrows Shinobu's scrap bike. As they zip through the city, Kurio's heart races, but little do they know what awaits them. Kurio asks Toa to take her to the Pillar of Heaven, not realizing that Chao, who's proven to be rather tenacious, is still on their tail. As they enter the Pillar of Heaven, things get interesting, but not exactly in the way they'd hoped. Stay tuned for the next thrilling installment of Yuki Holder, the tale of immortal shenanigans. IQ was ready with an orbital laser as a backup plan just in case Toa asks why Haim isn't present. Kiri explains that Fate would recognize her. Suddenly, a mysterious hooded man bumps into Toa, but before any further action can be taken, Kiri alerts them that Fate is approaching. Toa opens a pre-recorded video message from Haim, in which she reveals that Fate was once a hero and a close comrade of his grandfather Negi. However, after Negi's sudden death 20 years ago, Fate's personality drastically changed, turning him into an enemy of humanity. Fate finally arrives, but Toa requests the orbital attack to be cancelled. His friends from the village are here, and they'll find another way to resolve things. As Fate approaches Toa, his childhood friends Nikamaru and Toru spot him, and they joyfully reunite. AQ, confident that Toa can protect his friends, decides to fire the orbital laser anyway, but his hand is suddenly chopped off by a mechanical maid. Fate introduces himself to Toa as an old friend of Negi and threatens to kill everyone in the room unless Toa goes with him. Toa, however, decides to take matters into his own hands and readies Robo. He suddenly shouts out that Fate is a terrorist, diverting everyone's attention. This momentary distraction allows Karen to kick Nikamaru and Toru to safety. She and Toa then engage Fate in close combat, but Fate's barriers protect him. Toa increases the weight of Robo to 500 tons, shattering Fate's defenses. Kuro assists Kiri in latching onto Fate, but a momentary distraction leaves her vulnerable to Fate's petrification. Realizing the battle is lost, IQ signals a retreat. Multiple battles break out simultaneously. Karen faces Shaba, the battle monk. Kuro has a rematch with Azura, and Eiku faces off against Tsukuyomi, a vampire-slaying practitioner. These three foes make up the White Wings, Fate's organization, and they prove to be formidable opponents. Karen knows they need to retreat, but it's unclear whether their enemies will let them. Meanwhile, Toa is left to battle the leader of the White Wings, Fate, in a desperate duel. Toa skillfully avoids Fate's attacks while receiving the call from Kuro, who reports a strange countdown on Kiri. Realizing what it means, he instructs everyone to hold out for one more minute. Toa engages Fate relentlessly, using the weight-shifting capabilities of Robo to keep his movements unpredictable. Their battle even takes to the skies, but Toa increases the weight of Robo, causing them to crash down just as Kiri's petrification is reversed. Kiri's plan has a resounding success, with not a single hiccup. It's a flawless victory. Fate is trapped and confronts Haim in anger, threatening a catastrophic battle. However, he reconsiders, recognizing the odds are against him. Instead, he negotiates for his freedom in exchange for answering one question from each of them. AQ goes first, asking why Fate is so intent on having Toa. Fate reveals that Toa is crucial to saving his grandfather Negi and the 12 billion souls in the galaxy. It appears that Negi is not truly deceased. Karen poses a question she deems of paramount importance. Who did Negi love more, him or Haim? Fate insists Negi had no favorites, and even if he did, Fate simply doesn't care. Kuro inquires about the urgency of Fate's need for Toa's cooperation, to which Fate responds that it might take 20 years. Finally, Toa asks if Fate killed his parents. Fate confirms that he did. In response, Toa awakens his Magia Ariba and prepares to confront Fate head-on. Just as the confrontation is about to escalate, a holographic image of Negi appears, and it appears to be more than a pre-recorded message. Negi advises Toa not to trust Fate's words, as they don't tell the whole story. Before he can reveal more, Haim instructs Kuro to disable the device transmitting the message. With this new revelation, Haim and Fate form an uneasy truce, recognizing that a more significant threat looms. Kiri is frustrated that Fate was released so easily, but Kuro reassures her that they gained valuable information. Toa presses Haim for more details about his grandfather, but she locks herself in her room, unable to share the full truth just yet. Meanwhile, an elderly woman named Ayaka and her granddaughter Miser arrive seeking Haim. Toa enjoys an afternoon snack with Shinobu, while Kuro and Kiri watch from a distance, keeping a close eye on the situation. Suddenly, Miser bursts in and claims that Toa is a descendant of Negi, a notorious ladies' man who had romantic relationships with all 30 of his students. She tries to attack Toa but goes too far, and he ends up throwing her out the window. However, he catches her midair, displaying some of the charisma he inherited from his grandfather. Meanwhile, Ayaka visits Jaime, who is revealed to be one of her former classmates, and they reminisce about old times. Later, Miser, wearing a borrowed-made outfit from Shinobu, brings Toa a massive home-cooked feast. Karen, Kuro, and Kiri watch from a distance, feeling envious. Initially, Kiri assumes that Miser had chefs prepare the meal, but they notice numerous bandages on Miser's fingers, indicating that she cooked the entire feast herself. The sincerity of human girls is astounding. Toa then meets with Haim, who has reverted to her original form as Evangeline. She reveals that 20 years ago, Negi faced off against Ael, the Baoth, and the Mage of the Beginning. Negi was ultimately possessed by her, so the Negi they encountered was not the real Negi. Haim discloses another shocking truth. Toa's parents did not die 2 years ago because they weren't his parents. Toa is in fact a genetic clone created using material collected from Negi. Toho shares this revelation with Kuro, leaving him with more questions than answers. Miser interrupts his contemplation and invites him to the Mahora fighting tournament. Toho and the others arrive at Mahora, where he's excited to learn that he's eligible to enter the martial arts tournament, the final round of which takes place at the top of the Pillar of Heaven. However, the participants are predetermined and he can only enter if someone drops out. Later, he meets Ayaka, who introduces him to a sentient android and Mana, the organizer of the Mahora tournament. Mana reveals that she is also the current headmistress and informs Toho that his grandfather Negi once taught at the school. Ayaka takes Toho to their old classroom. Ayaka and Mana reassure Toho that if Negi were present, he'd adamantly insist that Toho is his true grandson. They take turns hugging him. However, Mana receives a call informing her that one of the participants is injured and has withdrawn from the tournament. Fortunately, she has a replacement in mind. Toho enters the arena to compete in the tournament, and his opponent is a hooded figure known as Cutlass. Toho initiates the battle, but soon realizes that Cutlass is a formidable opponent who wields both a sword and magic. Cutlass becomes agitated and refers to Toho as brother. She overpowers him brutally, seemingly cleaving him in two. Despite their desire to help, Toho's friends are unable to enter the arena due to a powerful barrier. Toho's Maja Iribi powers kick in, which Cutlass finds barbaric and unsightly. However, Toho's newfound strength enables him to land a hit on Cutlass, revealing her true identity as a girl. Suddenly, someone descends into the arena. Negi, or rather, Alda, the mage of the beginning, who has taken possession of Negi's body. Alda implores Toho to go with him to save the world, but Toho is understandably hesitant, given that people who have tried to kill him are making the request. Toho shatters Alda's barrier and enters the arena, but he finds himself trapped by Nodoka and Yu, who are former students of Negi. Jack, a large man wielding a great sword, nearly strikes him down. However, Kurin and Kuro finally make it into the arena, and Kiri throws Toho's sword. The stage is set for the most significant battle yet, as Fate and the UQ holders prepare to face off.